All right, hello there. This is the second episode of the Football Block. I'm here with just Joey this time, and this episode we're going to be focusing on the recent first legs of all the round of 16 Champions League matches. We're going to talk a little bit about each match. We're going to talk about like a brief summary of each match, what we thought of each team's performance, and then after that we're going to give maybe a little prediction about the second leg and who's going to go through. And then after that, we're going to have a little Q&A with some of our friends from various Facebook groups and Instagram profiles. So without further ado, let's start off. So the first match we're going to talk about is Atletico versus Liverpool. Atletico at home beat Liverpool 1-0. With a goal by Saul Niguez in the, I think, 4th minute or something, very early goal. What were your thoughts, Joey?
I wasn't too surprised, really, because I know that sometimes when you have a team like Liverpool, who are very gifted offensively, and I know, like, the typical Atleti play style, and they haven't really, it hasn't been, like, as big as it was, like the typical athletic play style of just like hard-nosed, aggressive football, like a lot of players on their side of the 50. They haven't really been doing that as much this year because, I mean, a lot of their players, like the Gabbies and the Godins, like they're not there anymore, so they've had some difficulty doing that, but they were able to dig in because, I mean, it's a big match against Liverpool, and I think that, you know, they're a very disciplined side when they have to be, and, like, they can stick to a game plan, and then, I mean, they're not really a team that's going to be very phased by the pressure, and I think they did a good job of just limiting the damage Liverpool could do, because, I mean, they have some speedsters, some tricksters, really, like, solid offense, but I think they did a good job of just handling them and just doing just enough to get by, where they could just get a goal and then hold on for the rest of the game, which is what they intended to do, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think Atletico, this is arguably their best game of the season. Like, as of right now, they're not really having that great of a season. I mean, it's not that surprising. They lost like half of their core players over the summer. Godin left, as you mentioned. Gabby left a year ago, but then Griezmann, their talisman, left. Felipe Luis, he left. Rodri left as well, who was supposed to be the replacement for Gabby. So, I mean, they have replaced those players with good players, but still, it's going to take a while for them to set in. And then not only that, they've been having some injury problems. Diego Costa has been having some long-term injuries and things like that. So, I was actually, part of me was surprised about how good Atletico was, but part of me was like, well, you know, this is typical Diego Simeone in the Champions League. You know, this was the most characteristic Atletico performance you've ever seen, basically. He really rolled back the years. This reminded me of, you know, a few years ago when they would go up against the best teams in the world, as they did against Liverpool. Liverpool, on the other hand, I think maybe they're just tired because they've been going on this insane run in the Premier League, but they just did not show up. I mean, I think it's more so that Atletico played really well because they just completely shut down the front three of Liverpool. Mo Salah had that one really good shot, but beyond that, he was kind of invisible. Sadio Mane got, he was getting really flustered. They really frustrated him. He almost got sent off. That's why Klopp subbed him off. And then Firmino, he like barely touched the ball. I think Atletico was very good overall. It was a very professional performance. And I think if, say, Diego Costa wasn't injured or if Griezmann was still there, they could have won this game by more because Morata had some really good chances that typical Morata fashion he missed. So, overall, I think it was a great performance by Atletico. But my prediction for the second leg, I don't know because, remember last season, Barcelona and the Camp Nou, Messi had a great game. They absolutely destroyed Liverpool.
Right. Yeah.
It wasn't a great team performance, but it was still a big result, 3-0. And then they went back to Anfield and then capitulated, lost 4-0.
Yeah.
But there's a big difference between that Valverde's Barcelona and Simeone's Atletico. But then still saying that Liverpool still has, this immense attacking talent. So I'm not sure.
Because it's only 1-0.
Yeah, and again, it's not 3-0 like last time. It's only 1-0. But I'm going to go for the controversial one, and I think that Atletico is going to pull this off and eliminate Liverpool. And I know Liverpool is a defending champions, and they would love to defend their crown, but I think part of their fan base would be okay with that, given they just won the Champions League last year, and they really, really want to win the Premier League. As I think it's like 30-something years now they haven't won it. So
a lot of times you see like a team like, I don't know, Barcelona, Real Madrid, or Bayern, where they're routinely winning their domestic leagues, and like they'll go all out to win the Champions League, and then kind of a reversal where Liverpool seems to care more about the Premier League. I mean, rightfully so. I mean, it's been 30 years. I mean, in most cases, you're going for the Champions League or the Premier League, but, I mean, it's been a really long time, and they have the team to do it this year, and, I mean, if they can go far in both, I think they'd love to, but it does look like that they're really focused on winning England right now.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I still think there's just embarrassment of riches they have up top, and I think if they can do a better job at just, I don't know, because they controlled the pace of the game, but like that isn't enough when you play a team like Atleti, because they're okay if you control the pace of the game, because I mean they're just gonna clear the ball, they're gonna make good tackles, they're gonna slow the game down on their side of the field. But I don't know, I just can't see them not scoring a goal. And then I could see Liverpool scoring maybe 2 goals, and then you're also asking Atleti to come back and score again just to, even the aggregate. Let's say Liverpool scores 2. Then who was the home team again in the prior game?
It was Atletico's at home.
So
this next one is going to be in Anfield.
I mean, it wouldn't
Liverpool.
It wouldn't be like crazy to see a shutout win by Liverpool. I mean, they don't have any slouches on defense either.
Yeah.
I mean, holding Atleti to 1 goal at home is decent.
What's your score prediction for the second leg?
I wouldn't be surprised to see a 2-0 Liverpool win. I mean, there was a time you'd probably say Salah was probably the maybe second best striker in the world behind Lewandowski. You might even say he's the best right now. I personally think Lewandowski is the best, but Salah is up there, at least in the top 3 in forwards. And I think that combined with the pace on the outside, with what's his face, Mane.
Yeah, Mane. Yeah.
Different guys.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go either 1-1 or 2-1 to Liverpool. I still think that Atletico are going to go through, but I think it's going to be a really close game. Maybe Liverpool score first, but then Atletico get a set-piece goal. Liverpool might even score another, but it's not going to be enough because of away goals. Liverpool's not going to be able to go through. So moving on from there, the next game of the series, it is PSG versus Dortmund. Now, for me, when I was watching this game, I thought it could really go either way prior to this, because as good as PSG are in France, and as massive as their talent pool is, they have choked in this stage of the Champions League for the last 3 years. And Dortmund, on the other hand, has a very porous defense. They're also without Marco Reus, but on the other hand, they have Jadon Sancho and Erling Haaland, who is in the form of his life right now. So I didn't really know where this was going to go, and this game was a very exciting game. I think PSG certainly had their chances, but Dortmund, I think, deservedly won 2-1. 2 goals from Haaland. One was kind of a lucky deflected tap-in. The other one, though, was an absolute missile into the upper 90. And PSG did get 1 goal. Defensive mistake from Dortmund. Mbappe was able to get past 3 defenders, and Neymar was able to tap in the cross. So it's definitely not a done deal. I think that this tie could still go either way. But in my opinion, I think that Dortmund is going to be able to pull this through. I think the second leg in Paris is going to be a very high-scoring affair. But I just can't look past the form that Haaland is in right now. It's absolutely insane the amount of goals he's scoring. Not just the amount of goals, but the types of goals. Like that shot to make it 2-1. There was so much power into that. He didn't have a lot of run up. He hit it with so much pace and so much power that by the time Keylor Navas was able to dive, the ball was already in the back of the net.
There's nothing you can do.
So I think it's going to be close again, but I think Dortmund is going to go through.
I think Dortmund hasn't had a true number 9 since Lewandowski. I mean, I liked Aubameyang, but I never thought of him as like a pure just number 9 finisher like Lewandowski is. Where like he's not going to kill you with his pace, but like the way Aubameyang would. Where Aubameyang, he would get a ton of chances just because he was able to just outrun people and just they would dump the ball over top of the defenders and he would just eventually get enough shots they're going to score. But I love Haaland because you're not going to play him like that. Where he's more like prototypical number 9. Where he's amazing finisher. He can win the ball in the air. And he's skilled on the ball. I mean, and he's so young too. Where the Dortmund team in general, like they do have some key veterans, like Royce whenever he plays, or Piszak, and I think that they should be able. I agree they should be able to hold their own against PSG, and it does say a lot about PSG that both of us are predicting them to lose the second leg, or at least on aggregate, even though they have one of the most expensive sides in the world. They have Neymar, who most people thought was the heir apparent to Messi and Ronaldo, but I mean I think he's kind of plateaued a little bit. Would you agree that he kind of plateaued?
I do agree that he's plateaued a bit. I still think if I was to rank the best players in the world, I still think he's the third best after Messi and Ronaldo. But I do have to admit, after 2017, it seems like he hasn't gotten any better. At Barcelona, each season, it seemed like he was getting better. Parts of his games were developing. Like even his last season at Barcelona, he didn't score as many goals, but his assist numbers were really high. His number of chances created was insane. He was looking to become a player like Messi, but he went to PSG and he still scores a lot of goals. But it's
wanted him to be the Messi of PSG.
And
he's
I don't know.
I think he's such a good player, but it's very different when he's supposed to be. He's kind of starting to get overshadowed by Mbappe too. I mean, Mbappe's another one of those like just generational forwards.
In my opinion, I think that Neymar is better than Mbappe, but
I agree.
Mbappe is he's the hero of France, and obviously PSG's in France.
I think if PSG choose between those two, I think they'd rather have Mbappe.
Yeah, Mbappe's younger too.
He's younger, and like he's French. Everyone loves him.
Yeah, and then not only that, Mbappe, he has I would say a better reputation than Neymar. Not that Neymar has a bad reputation, but still, you see all his antics with diving. He punched a fan last season. He misses games to go to Carnival in Brazil and then go to celebrate his sister's birthday.
He's not as serious about like the game as like Ronaldo and Messi and like, the greats.
Yeah. So
as talented as he is, there's only so far it'll get you.
Yeah.
He may be scoring left and right in the Farmers League, but when he has to play against like established top 10, top 12 teams, it's going to be much harder. And just playing decently isn't going to be enough to win these games.
Yeah.
And PSG now is like what I kind of think of what Man City was maybe like 5 years ago, and over the course of most of the end of last decade into this. Until now, until the past 2 years, they're kind of like what Man City was, where they had one of these expensive juggernaut teams, all this rich Arab money, and you weren't really afraid of them when you got to crunch time.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I feel the same way about PSG now, and PSG in general, aside from their attackers, they don't really have a scary core down. I'm not scared of Thiago Silva's getting old. And they no longer I remember back in the day they'd have Matuidi and Ibrahimovic, and you had some veterans that really could take over the game, and they don't have that anymore. They were starting. Who were they starting in center mid? Because they don't have Rabiot anymore either. They had Idrissa Gueye, I think. I forget. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. But then they have him, Verratti, who I think is very good. And then they bought Ender Herrera, who, he's a decent player. They bought Sarabia, who I think is actually underrated. I think he's very good, but he's not. He's more of a winger.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that some of the core players are getting old, and it's fine in the French league. They'll
that's
probably
plenty,
continue
plenty
to
enough
win.
to get by.
But I also think their manager too, like Thomas Tuchel, I think he's a good manager. But
Yeah,
like you
I don't
mentioned,
know.
Man City, like they had Pellegrini, who was able to win the Premier League, and I'm not taking that away from him. Pellegrini, it was a great achievement from him, but he was never able to take him that far. Like he kind of plateaued. And then they brought in Pep. He absolutely transformed the team.
Oh my
Now,
gosh, yeah.
at one point, they were the best team in the world. Right now, I think they're the second best team in the world.
Definitely.
So, I mean, I think PSG need to do something like that, get a top class coach, but easier said than done.
And I also think that maybe signing Neymar was a mistake. Or he's an amazing player, but he just doesn't really fit the team. And you don't really need him. I mean,
I think it's
in theory it was an amazing signing,
Yeah.
but it just hasn't panned out. And you could still get a ton for him. Barcelona, I heard. I mean, they'd love to have him back.
yeah. As a Barcelona fan, I would love to have Neymar back.
And I'm sure Neymar would love to be back. I'm sure.
Yeah, you said it
Barcelona,
multiple times, yeah.
they definitely need him the way they've been playing lately.
Yeah. Now, anyway, my score prediction though for PSG Dortmund, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna go 3-2, Dortmund. Either 2-2 or 3-2 Dortmund. I think, like I said, it's gonna be high scoring, but I think, because of Haaland, Dortmund goes through. Now, if between now and then Haaland gets injured,
Then it'll be different.
I think it's PSG goes through. But as of right now, it's Dortmund. What's your score prediction?
Another thing I do like about Dortmund is while they have a porous defense, they do have they have a lot of really athletic players and a lot of guys who can make something out of nothing. Or I look at their defense and it's scary thinking Mbappe is gonna go against Dan Axel Zagadou, but I mean,
Which he did last game.
Yeah. I still think that they have enough for they're a really strong team, I think, and of course Jordan Sancho is amazing. I love watching him play, and they're a young and flashy team, and they've just enough key veterans to give them some experience. A lot of these guys like Royce have been there, done that before. Of course, when he plays, that's a 50-50.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't know the schedule of his injury, but if he comes back before this game with PSG, then it's another added plus.
Oh yeah, I think it'll be even more of a chance that they win if they have him back.
Yeah,
but I wouldn't be surprised to see I don't know 2-1. I'm gonna say 3-1 because I don't know. I think that I could see the wheels falling off the car early for PSG if Dortmund comes out of the gates and scores.
Yeah,
I could see a quick counterattack in the 10th minute, a cross into Holland. And I could see them just running away with the game where, I don't think PSG has the mental fortitude to be able to draw themselves back into the game. Because, I mean, we know what PSG's like when, even if they're up by 4, they're not safe.
Yeah.
You remember Barcelona?
Yeah. All right, from that point, let's move on to the next matchup, and that is Atalanta versus Valencia. And what was your reaction? Well, just give a brief summary of the game in your opinion. What did you see?
Well, I'm not gonna lie and say I'm I have a very large knowledge about Atalanta, but I do know that they have been very people have been taking notice of them this season. I mean, they came through the group stage obviously, and I do know that they have the ability to score a handful of goals at any given moment. I did also notice that Valencia is significantly weaker than they've been, and I think Spanish football in general, this has not been a very good year or two for them. Losing Ronaldo and then Barcelona, Real Madrid, Valencia, Atleti, none of them really, Sevilla, none of them have really been up to par. That was their usual ways of the past latter half of the last decade. And I just think that a quick Atalanta team, a lot of playmakers, play hard, capitalize. I think that's all you really need, and I think they should be able to carry that momentum into the next game and at least get a draw out of it, and that's definitely going to be enough to advance.
Yeah, I think that I think the scoreline is 4-1. I think it's a little flattering for Atalanta because I mean they were the better team, but Valencia had a lot of chances that they just were not able to put away. This game could have, but then again, so did Atalanta. This game could have ended up being 5-4, 6-3 or something like that. I think that both teams are very good going forward. I would say Atalanta probably at the moment better going forward. Guys like Papu Gomez, Ilicic, Duvan Zapata, they've been having a really good season, and also last season as well. Valencia had a really good season last year. This year, it's kind of up and down, but they still have the quality there. I think that the next match is going to be in the Mestalla. I believe that's Valencia Stadium. I think it's probably, I would say 2-1 Valencia.
But obviously,
I think they will win. There will be a lot of chances, but Atalanta will end up going through. Yeah. So
it's hard to come back from 4-1.
Yeah. And I don't think
get the away goal at least.
Yeah, they did get an away goal, but I think that Valencia, like I said, they have quality, but overall Atalanta is a better team. So what's your score prediction for this game?
I think 2-1 Valencia or 2-2. I don't know. I guess 2-2.
Yeah.
Something close.
All right, moving on from there. Next matchup is Tottenham versus RB Leipzig. Now, this game, a lot of people I've heard say that Leipzig, absolutely destroyed Tottenham, even though it was only 1-0. It should have been more. While I agree that Leipzig was a better team, I don't think it's as simple as that. Tottenham had some very good chances. But, again, Leipzig was the better team. And this was also at home, and Leipzig were still able to get away with the win. I think that Tottenham under Mourinho is still a developing team. He just came in not too long ago. They began good results, but their style of play hasn't been too well. Not only that, Harry Kane's injured. Heung-min is I think out for the season. So I mean, I forget his name. The winger they just signed, I forget his name. I think he's Dutch.
Bergwijn.
Yeah, he started out pretty good, but still, he's not Harry Kane.
No.
And he's not Heung-min either. So Leipzig, on the other hand,
of course, no Eriksen anymore either.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no Eriksen either. Although to be fair, I don't think Mourinho really liked him. I don't think he would have been good under Mourinho.
Yeah, they just don't. They played. I don't know. I respect the way they play, but I just didn't think. I thought they had the player pool where they could. I loved how they played much more before, but they were never going to dominate the game, but they were always going to be a counter puncher.
Yeah, they're always very dangerous.
They had so much pace and agility on the wings, and of course they have probably one of the best target men in the league and in the world. But I mean, of course, without him, I don't know. They just don't have that. They don't have the firepower right now.
Yeah.
Where you are going against Leipzig, where you should be beating Leipzig and not getting. And they seemed like they were getting relatively bossed around by a much smaller and lower quality team. Not to say that they're a bad team, and Tottenham, I was looking at their midfield, and it's never been a really strength of their team, but it's nothing to write home about. And when you look at German football, Germany really excels at just controlling the ball down the midfield and being able to pass the right at different situations and being very disciplined. And I think Tottenham, under Mourinho, they're going to become more of a disciplined side, where I think they can hold their the formation, they're going to be pretty stout defensively, but it's going to be a trade-off where they're not going to be committing as much on the attacking end, where I think they have much better players. And I don't see them they don't really have a talisman midfielder like Tottenham used to have with Modric back in the day. And I think that them not having a talisman midfielder like that kind of caused them to be more counter-attacking based. And I think now Mourinho is doing less of that, and he's playing a much more gritty and organized style, but it didn't really work when he was Man United's boss, and I don't know how well it's going to work in Europe. He may be able to get a third place in the Premier League, but he's never going to be first or second anytime soon, the way Liverpool and Man City are playing. and I don't know. I didn't like I don't like the way Tottenham plays now. I don't think it's a fit for he can have a summer transfer window where he can get guys that he thinks fits, because it's a lot to ask, because you're not going to get a full team in the winter transfer window. And, like, you know, Lo Celso, Bergwijn, like, these are good guys, but these type of guys were, like, I'd sign in FIFA to be, like, a bench player if I was at Tottenham, not a starter in the Champions League. And, of course, there's injuries to probably if they're three key players.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I'm not surprised to see them lose, really.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't shock me to see them get a tie out of the next game, but I don't really see them. Even if they do move on, I don't see them doing much. They don't excite me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this game was in
Germany.
It was
in
I'm pretty sure the Tottenham was at home, but either way, if they were the home team, it certainly did not feel like they were the home team. Leipzig actually, like I said before, I think Tottenham did have some really good chances, but Leipzig just dominated the pace of the game.
Oh yeah, I was seeing the passing statistics. They had much more passes.
Yeah. Most of the chances that Tottenham had were counterattacks. So I think that when they go back for the second leg, I think it's pretty much going to be a repeat. My score prediction is probably 1-0 again. Leipzig, maybe 1-1 or something like that. But I still think that Leipzig
I don't see them winning.
is going to through. I think Leipzig is actually a dark horse for this competition. They have a really solid team, a solid manager too. Nagelsmann, I believe that's how you pronounce his name.
Nagelsmann.
He's a young manager. He's very talented though. And then we don't hear much about Leipzig because they're not like a big team,
powerhouse,
or as of yet at least. But they have some really good players.
New.
They're
a new
team.
Very good forward.
Timo Werner's very good.
I saw he got re-signed to play at Leipzig even more longer. He wanted to stay rather than go to a European giant, which I'm sure. I remember he was rumored to go to Liverpool a few years ago. Obviously, they don't need him now, but
of course.
He pretty much could just pick wherever he really wants to go right now. He's top form right now.
Yeah.
And I would say he's probably, is he the favorite to be the Germany's Euro starter?
Oh, yeah, he's probably going to be their star forward. I mean, he was, at least for the first two games at the World Cup, he was their number 9, but then of course things happened. He got pushed out to the wing, and then I think he was benched. But he's a very good player, and I think also if he gets on a scoring run, goes Leipzig could be potentially this year's version of Ajax from last year, even Monaco. Although maybe not as good, because Ajax last year, they were just amazing. That was
gifted.
One of the best team performances I've ever seen in a tournament like this ever. I mean, it's unfortunate that they didn't get to the final.
Of course, it's unfortunate that pretty much their whole team was ransacked after that. But just natural. When you have an overperforming young team, every big team's going to want to take a piece of the pie.
Yeah. But, anyway, I think it's going to be either 1-0 or 1-1. What's your score prediction?
I'd say 2-1 Leipzig. I could see a relatively close game. But I don't know. I just don't see Tottenham being able to go over the top right now, especially not without Harry Kane. With Harry Kane, then it's a completely different story. I'd probably say that Tottenham is favored to win, but I don't know. I don't see them winning this one.
Yeah, I agree. All right, on to the next match, which is Napoli versus Barcelona. As a Barcelona fan, I don't know. I kind of have some mixed feelings about it. It wasn't a perfect game by any means, but Barcelona did have some good moments. They clearly dominated possession. They really choked Napoli out. Messi didn't really have that great of a game.
Busquets was great.
Yeah, Busquets was very good. Griezmann was actually very good. So was Nelson Semedo. But on the flip side, Junior Firpo had he just had a bad performance. It's okay. Like, every player has one of those performances once in a while, and he's a young player as well. But the first goal came from a mistake from him. He lost the ball. It got played out to Dries Mertens. Credit to Dries Mertens. It was an amazing finish. He curled it in from outside the box, and now he is the record holder for most goals for Napoli. He tied Marek Hamšík's record. Unfortunately, he got injured as the match went on, but he played very well. And I think Napoli, they defended very well. Give them credit for that. They defended really well.
Very good defensive team.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think they they limited Messi's influence on the game. Every time Messi got the ball, there was 3 or 4 players around him just containing him. And usually he's able to get around that, but I don't know. This match wasn't that good. It wasn't bad, but by Messi standards, it wasn't an amazing game. Ter Stegen was great. He had actually, in my opinion, I think he's man of the match because he had some really essential saves that kept Barcelona at a tie. Griezmann had a very good goal, good build-up play, and I think that Barcelona is having an injury crisis right now.
Yeah,
they're missing so many of their first team that I think I'm okay with this score given the injury crisis, and also given that it's Quique Setien's first. This is his first ever Champions League game, not just first Champions League game with Barcelona, just first ever Champions League game. Although to be fair, I believe this is Gennaro Gattuso's first ever Champions League game. But still, I thought this was a well fought game. Both teams played their part, but the advantage was Barcelona. Obviously, had the away goal. In my opinion, I think when they go back to the Camp Nou,
I think they'll be able to handle them.
Yeah, I think that as good as Napoli was, Barcelona in the Camp Nou is just a whole nother level. Even last season under Valverde, they just blew teams away in the Camp Nou. I think I would say maybe 3-1 Barcelona. I think Messi will have a good game. Griezmann gets a goal.
I could see it 3-0 or 3-1.
I would say Barcelona's defense, as of late, especially with injuries, hasn't been that imperious. I would say, and not only that, Napoli with the attacking talent they have, I think they'll be able to get a goal, maybe even a goal or two, maybe 4. The match could be 4-2 Barcelona, or 3-1. But I think Barcelona will be the clear winners.
Yeah, I'd agree.
One thing I will say, though, that might be a little tough is Sergio Busquets, as good as he was, he did pick up a yellow, and now that means he'll miss the second leg. Piqué also went off injured at the very last moment, so he'll probably miss El Clasico this weekend. And possibly the second leg. I don't think they've had an update for how long his injury will be or how severe it is, if it is severe at all. And then also Arturo Vidal got sent off really stupidly as well. He got in an argument with the referee. I mean, it was a bad foul in the first place, and then he got in an arguing match with, I think, Mario Rui, and then he got in the referee's face, and the referee gave him 2 yells and sent him off right there. So he's going to miss the second leg. So it might be a little tougher than usual because they're missing so many players on top of the injury crisis that they already have. But still, Barcelona in the Camp Nou, and not only that, you have Messi in your team. I still think Barcelona is going to go through this pretty easily.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's your score prediction? You'd say
3-1 sounds
3-1.
fair.
Yeah. Moving on from there, we have Chelsea versus Bayern. Now, Joey, I know you're a Chelsea fan. What is your opinion on this match? How did it go through, and what did you think?
Well, I do think that Bayern they played very well. Obviously, having a transfer ban until this past window, it kind of limited the quality Chelsea could put out in the field. And throughout the season, I mean, they've had games where I'm impressed, and then there's games where there's a lot of growing pains. And I mean, while Bayern, they're not like the Bayern they were in 2012 or 2013. They're slowly finding their form again. Where I think Lewandowski and Alphonso Davies and Gnabry, they're very world class. That's a great rotation they have out there. And I think they were just able to, first off, Davies and he's insanely fast, and he was just able to just impose his will on basically anybody, any of the Chelsea defenders, anybody on the outside. They don't have a very fast unit in Chelsea. They have a lot of players were Cesar Azpilicueta, and I don't like it when they stick him outside and I don't necessarily like it when they stick anyone outside because I don't think they have the talent to play their typical Chelsea back formation, and I've kind of expected results like this, so I'm not really surprised. And I mean, it is what it is. They don't have nearly the attacking power to even score like 3 goals against Bayern anyway. So as soon as they're getting like 2, you kind of realize it's over. And I think Lewandowski kind of proved he's the best forward in the world. He was brilliant, and I mean, I'm not really upset. I'm not surprised at the result. It's not going to be like it's hard when you have such a young and inexperienced team with like Mounts and Abrahams, and you know it's kind of like a freebie year for Lampard. So I mean, I'm not expecting anything in the second leg. Maybe like a 2-1 Bayern win, but I mean Bayern is just they play very well. I do think that people were kind of overreacting a little bit. I kind of saw some people in the media talking about Bayern as like the favorites to win the Champions League now. I don't really think that's true. They, to me, still, I mean, they're not playing great in Germany right now. I saw didn't they just tie like one of the low table teams?
I think so. I know they tied Leipzig a week ago, about a week ago, I think. So, but they just got a new manager, so
I mean, it was a great win for them, and I do think that the duo of Lewandowski and Gnabry are one of the top, maybe like 3 attacking duos in the league right now, in the world right now. Excuse me. And I think they're gonna comfortably dominate the game next time they play Chelsea, because that's just not how Chelsea plays right now. They don't have the talent to be able to hang in there with Bayern. And I think that they've had their games in the Premier League this year, but they've also you've seen Chelsea, the highs and lows this year. And
yeah, definitely.
There's peaks and valleys with such a young team, and I think the team's going to look very different going into next year. So it's hard to really talk much about this current team when it's going to be very different. And most people know that they're going to go out and spend money over the summer, because you can't just put this Chelsea team and you can't just plug them in next year and expect them to do much better than they are right now. I mean, obviously, you won't expect some of the young players to grow, but I mean, they're not that. Like, it's not like you're looking at like Neymar's and Mbappe's in Chelsea. Like, they have some good players. I like Mason Mount. I think he has the potential to be really good. He could be like a Chelsea captain someday. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think that I didn't really think that Chelsea was going to win this. I know that Bayern, their defense isn't that good. I was surprised that Chelsea weren't able to grab a goal. But if I was a Chelsea fan, I wouldn't really be that disappointed. Like, obviously, I wouldn't be happy that because
you
they
don't
did
like
lose.
to lose.
But if I was a Chelsea fan, I was still a little satisfied with what I saw, especially in the first half, because Bayern, I think by the end of the second half they were up 2-0, but still Chelsea had some really close chances. Or actually no, I think the first half was 0-0.
I think it was 0-0. Yeah,
and then the beginning of the second half, Bayern just like exploded.
Yeah, like Chelsea, they played well in the first half.
Yeah, I would still say Bayern.
They do have their moments. But they don't have like a finisher really. They don't have a guy.
I think Tammy Abraham was on the bench, I believe.
Yeah,
and then he came on in the second half. And then I think he's coming back from injury. And then Conte was also missing. I think that was
without Conte.
Yeah, they had no chance without Conte.
You really can't hold your own against Bayern.
Yeah,
they pass their way with
midfield.
ease.
Yeah,
you lose that battle automatically without Conte, and it's just too much to ask a bunch of young kids to just be able to play with Bayern.
Yeah,
and like the quality just isn't even.
I mean,
even with a Bayern team that isn't like very like they're nothing to write home about right now. Yeah. Overall, they have their players, but it's not like Bayern in the past with like Ribéry and Robin playing peak form and like
I will say
like he was
Bayern
before.
In the league is not as strong and dominant as it used to be, but in the Champions League, it's almost like they save their best performances for the Champions League, because if you remember, they beat Tottenham like 7-2.
Oh yeah, it was embarrassing.
They've had some crazy results so far this year.
They do like playing against London teams. Seemingly.
Yeah. I think
they love going to London.
Yeah,
that's like second. That's like Bavaria number 2.
Yeah. So I think
practically
that
a home game when they go there.
Yeah, I think that Bayern, like, I wouldn't say they're favorites, but they're definitely in contention, just judging on how good they have been in the Champions League games. And not only that, like you mentioned before, Lewandowski and Gnabry, that's a crazy partnership there.
Oh, yeah. Thomas Mueller's playing
and Thomas
much
Mueller
better than...
He's back to form. He kind of changed the way he's playing. He's not so much a goal scorer anymore, but he has an insane amount of assists this season.
Brilliant passer this year. And I do like how the offense in Bayern with Coman too. They do have some. They have some speedsters, and that's definitely the strength of their team. And of course, they have like Thiago in the midfield holding his own. He's very good, and just the defense definitely is the weak link for Bayern. But when you have such a strong midfield where you're able to boss the game around like against Chelsea, you don't. The defense isn't really like they're out of sight, out of mind because Chelsea's not having as many, especially in the second half. Bayern was just imposing their will. Chelsea wasn't getting many chances.
You mentioned Thiago. I think obviously all the praise is going to go to Gnabry and Lewandowski, and deservedly so because they were amazing. But Thiago was also very, very well. I think he's an underrated player.
Definitely, yeah.
People talk about how good he is, but not. I feel like not enough. I think he's. If you were to create a list of top 10 midfielders in the world, he'd definitely be in there. Maybe not top 5, but he's definitely
like
top
7,
10.
8. Because when you have a team like Bayern, where like
it's full of superstars, So.
Yeah, and like sometimes you forget. Like it's like back when they had Xabi Alonso and Philipp Lahm. They had all these, and Schweinsteiger. You had all these guys up like in the attacking section, with like when Toni Kroos was there, and with Mueller back then. That's when like Mueller went through a couple of years where like he was kind of down on like it wasn't like he was never really like an amazing goal scorer, but he also went like through some time where he wasn't really doing much and he was kind of coming off the bench, and now he's like one of the best players on the team again, which is good. He's a veteran and he's a very smart player, which is I think like that's like a staple of Bayern, like a really smart pass first player, and I think he's that, and I think they need him to be that. To play underneath like the young guys on the outside than Lewandowski. I think it's important. And I think it's very important to have a guy like Thiago, playing behind those guys, sort of like starting up the build-up play, because you need to have like an anchor in the midfield. Because if you have a bunch of guys who are just going to run up and attack, sometimes your weakness is having somebody to stay back and, control the build-up play, play, not like when Vidal was there. He's not like Vidal where he's box to box, but he's more like he's a better passing, worse defending Vidal, I think, where he's the guy who they asked to play behind the front line of the midfield. I think he does a great job of just starting up the play, like controlling the flow of the game, and that's really important on teams like Bayern where you need somebody like it's like David Silva on Man City for years. He'd play like, I think I liken Thiago to David Silva.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say Bayern are the number one favorites, but I do think they're contenders, and as the season goes on, I think they might become more serious contenders. I think that Bayern is a team that doesn't really take their foot off the gas pedal. They usually always go for the jugular. I think the second leg could get pretty ugly. I think it could be like 4-1.
I wouldn't be surprised to see like another.
If they could beat Chelsea 3-1 or 3-0 in London, imagine what it could be in Munich.
I wouldn't be surprised to see a 5-0 scoreline.
Yeah,
and it just depends on how bad Bayern want to beat them. It's just like shooting a already wounded animal.
Yeah,
because that's what Chelsea is. Even coming into the season, they're just a wounded animal.
Yeah,
and they're just not anything close to resembling the Chelsea, maybe even like 4 years ago under like Mourinho. And they need to find themselves, and when you have a young boss and a young team, there's growing pains, and they'll be happy to have a top 4 finish this year in the Premier League and to try again next year, because I definitely don't see them. They don't have enough to overcome a 3-0 home loss. So
going on from there, the next game we have up is Lyon versus Juventus. And
it was a snooze fest.
out of all these matchups, most of them have been pretty interesting. I wouldn't say this one wasn't interesting, but just in comparison to the, we had games like two heavyweights like Atletico and Liverpool going up against each other, or Man City or Real Madrid, which we'll mention later, or like PSG versus Dortmund, a very open game. Where this one, it wasn't bad, but it was, compared to the others, it's just kind of
you want to see more out of a team wielding Ronaldo.
Yeah, that being said, Juventus was extremely disappointing.
Just didn't have a shot on target.
They just did not show. Yep, no shot on targets. They just did not show up. Lyon, credit to them, they came to play and they did. The first half, they absolutely dominated the game. One person may look at the scoreline and say, "Oh, 1-0 Juventus," or 1-0 Lyon. They probably just parked the bus the whole time and nicked the goal off a set piece. It was like, no, they thoroughly deserved the lead in the first half. They had shot after shot off the target. Chesney had to make some good saves. And in the second half, Juventus played a little better. Higuain and Dybala, especially Dybala, had some good link-on play, but still it wasn't enough. It was like too little too late. But that being said, Ronaldo in the second leg of Champions League knockout rounds. He did it last year when Atletico beat Juventus 2-0.
We'll just show up when they give the most.
He came back, scored a hat trick. He did it for Real Madrid. Wolfsburg beat Real Madrid 2-0. The game came back to Madrid. Ronaldo scored a hat trick. So I think it's more of the same. I think is going to happen. I think the game is going to come back to Turin. I don't think Juventus overall will have a great performance, but Ronaldo will carry the team. Probably score a hat trick, if not a hat trick, maybe like two goals,
like a brace,
or something like that.
Probably have a clutch goal at the end.
Yeah, I think Dybala will also show up because Dybala seems very motivated this season to prove himself.
Mm-hmm.
So next game, even if Juventus don't overall play good, I think
he'll play well.
I think Dybala and Ronaldo will play really good. I'm gonna go for 4-0 Juventus.
I'm just waiting on like a.
I'm gonna say
you're predicting that they're gonna have like a breakthrough type game.
Dybala and Ronaldo. I think Juventus overall
not
might
as
have
a team, but individually.
I think maybe 2 goals from Dybala, 2 from Ronaldo, or maybe a hat trick from Ronaldo. But Dybala gets a ton of assists.
I think
and
Juventus they've kind of fallen into like the rely on Ronaldo trap.
Yeah, but I mean
they're getting too comfortable.
If you could choose one player to rely on, then it's They went
through years where they didn't have a Ronaldo, so they had to play as a team, and I thought they were brilliant. I mean, they're dominant in Italy. They had runs in the Champions League, and you think you had a Ronaldo and you're gonna win the Champions League, just like PSG with Neymar. Obviously, PSG didn't have the track record that Juventus has in the Champions League, but I feels like it's like you add Ronaldo, but so you also get like these games where they sort of play down to their opponents, and I don't feel like they're motivated enough to like put out like a trademark Juventus performance. Not usually like, I'm not seeing it this year in Italy. They're kind of halving their way through Italy, and I feel like they're doing the same in Champions League. I'm just waiting for a really just trademark like win against a good team and a good French team. I mean, of course, it's France, but they're a good team. They have some good youth players.
Yeah, I would say, though, Lyon is... they're not doing too well in Ligue 1 right now. I think they're 8th or something like that. Not only that, they're missing Depay.
Yeah.
Easily their best player. He's out for the rest of the season.
So they're sort of promoted because they kind of realize that maybe not going to go their way in France, but they do have a chance to have some upset victories in Champions League, so of course they're going to give it a little extra.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they did against Juventus. I don't really think they're going to be able to hold it on next leg.
Yeah. So what would you...
I see 2-0 Juventus.
Yeah.
That seems fair.
I can definitely see that.
And I know you think a little more because you think some of the offensive firepower on Juventus is going to shine. And
I think that...
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see Ronaldo score like a hat trick.
I think Juventus' defense might not be good. They might give away some, easy chances. But without Depay, I don't think Lyon is going to be able to capitalize on those. So I think, like I said, I think Dybala and Ronaldo are going to have a really good game between the two, and just them individually are going to blow away Lyon. Going on from there, we have our last matchup. It's Manchester City versus Real Madrid. Real Madrid, obviously the record-holding winners of the Champions League, and Man City, who have been banned from the next 2 seasons. What was your reaction to the game, Joey? What did you think about how the game went down?
I thought it was just really brilliant performance by Manchester City and Pep in his tactics, where he knew that Real Madrid, they're not really having it. This isn't like Real Madrid over the past few years, obviously, because, Ronaldo, the Ronaldo factor. But, this is still a very talented team, and of course they have an aging midfield. They have defenders who are they're not at their peak right now. But, they have, the young Brazilians that they're trying to, grow, and they still have, Toni Kroos he's still probably one of the top 5 or 6 midfielders. He's still brilliant, but they're not a fast team. They're not a team that has like a deadly finisher anymore. Like Benzema's good, but he's getting older too. Overall, it's just an aging team, and Manchester City is just, I would say, Liverpool won the Champions League, but I think Manchester City has the best team in the world. And no, I don't think that. I would also say that they're the favorites to win. I think that they are what Bayern was in 2012, 2013. Of course, they're under Pep. I think they have a better team than Bayern did. I think De Bruyne is probably at least maybe the third, probably the 4th best player in the world right now. Maybe if you want to put Neymar in front of him. But, Pep did something interesting where he didn't start Aguero, and he was playing Jesus, and he was getting Jesus on the wings, outpacing, and the strength of Ronaldo's, I said Ronaldo's, Real Madrid, that goes to show you how important Ronaldo was for that team. The strength of their defense, Ramos is still a great player, but he's Ramos, he's a central back, he's going to stay sort of locked into the middle, and when you have guys coming attacking on the outside is limiting what the defenders can do on the middle, so the strength of Real Madrid's defense was their center backs in Varane and Ramos, and I think that Manchester City did a great job at pulling Carvajal out or pulling Mendy out on the outsides, and they're the weaker links on the defense, and they were able to sort of control the game through the flanks. You have guys in the middle like De Bruyne kicking it outside. Of course, when Sterling came on, I thought he was fantastic. I think overall they played really good football, and they were just able to control the game against Real Madrid. And I think that it could have been worse for Real Madrid. I thought that the Ramos penalty was a little soft, but what do you expect when you're coming in behind somebody? You're going to take any contact and they're going to go down. And I still think that, while it's soft, it's still a penalty that I would give as a ref, just because when you're running that fast into the box, that any sort of touch is enough to impede your progress. And Ramos knows that. I do think it's kind of funny how many red cards he gets. That was his 26th in his career. That's almost like a whole season's worth of red cards, which is crazy. And overall, it was just a really good performance by Manchester City, and they're just proving that they're the best team in the world. Just being able to, they have such good attacking, and they have attacking creators like De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva. It's just great to watch, and they're a very aesthetically pleasing team. It's something that the neutral fan can appreciate, because they not only have the possession, but they do things with possession, which I think teams like Juventus and Barcelona and Real Madrid sometimes they don't really do with all the possession they have. And you saw with Liverpool recently against Atleti, there's one thing just to have the ball, but there's another thing to be doing things with the ball. And I was just watching the clips from the game. It's just De Bruyne pass, over the top, beautiful lob pass, chip pass, perfectly timed, perfectly weighted. It could have been much worse. I saw Jesus. He had a brilliant pass to him. He cut the ball in. He got maybe 5-6 yards in front of the goal. The ball went straight at the goalie, but that's an easy goal if it goes a little bit more to the right or left. Where those are moments where you're saying, okay, it could be 3-4-1 Manchester City at the end of the game. It was just a thorough, dominance, and it's something that I've kind of been over the past few years, like we're finally seeing the Manchester City that we've kind of been promised.
In Europe, at least.
In Europe, at least, yeah. And I think that, while Liverpool is going all out to win the Premier League this year, I think Manchester City, they won the Premier League, and now they're saying, okay, but now we want to turn to Europe, because that's something that's kind of been eluding them for a long time, and they've had, the really quality team for now maybe like 7-8 years, where they've just been a really good team, but they've never been able to put it together until recently under Pep, and I think they're now seriously probably the favorites to win the Champions League.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that, credit to Real Madrid. I think they didn't play terrible in the first half. I thought the game was pretty even.
Mm-hmm.
Both teams had chances. Real Madrid.
I did see Vinicius Jr.
He slipped on that. Although, to be fair, that was Laporte put his body in the way of Vinicius, and the ball was also behind Vinicius. Which shows how good how good of a defender Laporte is.
I think he fits.
Although he did get injured, he had to come off, unfortunately for him. I will say the lineup from Pep was very strange. With De Bruyne and Bernardo Silva up top as essentially two strikers.
Yeah,
and,
they were taking kind of Aguero's spot.
Yeah,
playing like his false nines.
Gabriel Jesus as a left wing back is kind of strange. Although to be fair, they won the game. I think given that Man City is banned for the next 2 seasons, and also given the fact that Pep has not won the Champions League since Barcelona won in 2011, I think he is especially motivated
to win this year.
And because of that fact, I will say that I agree. I think Man City are the favorites for this. Also, they're essentially out of the race for the Premier League, so they're going to put all their effort into this. But yeah, and definitely in the second half, though, I think Man City played Real Madrid off the park. Real Madrid did get the opening goal, but that was more so just from a defensive mistake from Otamendi. But it could have been more than 2-1. 2-1's kind of flattering to Real Madrid. It could have been 3-1, 4-1.
4-1.
In my prediction for the second leg, I think it'll be that. I think it'll be 3-1 to Real Madrid. Although,
Real Madrid.
Not to Real Madrid, to Man City. Real Madrid, obviously, they're a powerful team. They do have some good players up top. I think they'll be able to get a goal, given that Man City hasn't been the best in defense. But this Aguero is probably going to play the second half for the whole game, and he's going to be motivated to score. Sterling will be able to play the full game as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can't look past Man City winning this one pretty comfortably.
Easily too, probably 3-1. I wouldn't be surprised to see 4-1, but I'm gonna say 3-1, just because Real Madrid does still have a really good team.
Yeah, not only that, Courtois is in fairly good form.
Yeah, Courtois has been playing much better.
Yeah,
than,
credit to him.
He was
I criticized him a lot last year, but he has been very good this season.
Yeah.
But even still,
there's always some jitters when you go to a team like Real Madrid. And you're expected, to be amazing.
Yeah. So.
And he's an amazing goalkeeper.
He's very good. Yeah.
It was just a rough spell.
Yeah.
And
to be fair, it was a rough spell for the whole team as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it still, for the most part, is for most of the team. It's not your typical Real Madrid, and for the most part, I mean, it's enough to get by. But they're going to come back soon. Maybe Hazard's going to grow a little bit on the team and become more of the guy that they bought. They wanted in him, but they do have to find their answers in the midfield, and I think they do have the answer. If you could always bump Isco down because you have the attacking depth, because they were playing him in more of an attacking position against Manchester City. But I think that once Modric and Kroos are out of Real Madrid, I think Isco is a fine replacement to play, because he can pretty much play anywhere in that central area of the midfield, central attacking mid, defensive mid.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think that he could be a good fill-in after those guys are gone.
On that note, I think we're gonna end our Champions League wrap up right there. We're gonna have a short transition, and then after that, we're gonna move on to our little Q&A.
Before we pause this, I know it's not Champions League, but just a quick 10-second reaction to Arsenal losing to Olympiacos?
Oh my God! Yeah, my one friend, he's an Arsenal fan. I feel so bad for him. Yeah.
David Luiz was pure awful.
I don't know. I feel bad for Aubameyang too. He's such a good player. Same with Lacazette, but
Guendouzi.
Yeah, Torreira too. But yeah,
it's
Arsenal.
whatever.
Yeah. There you go.
They're a meme. Yeah.
It's Arsenal. All right, we are back, and right now we are going to go into a Q&A segment. So we have some questions here from our friends on Facebook, from multiple Facebook groups, as well as our Instagram account. So the first question is from our friend Christian, and he asked, if Manchester City gets banned from the Champions League for the next 2 years, who's your favorite to win the spot for Champions League qualification? In my opinion, I think that as of right now, obviously the one team in the top four that usually isn't there is Leicester.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if they'll be able to sustain that because they're having a great season, but I don't know if they'll be able to keep up that form.
If it wasn't for Liverpool playing so well, people would be talking about them winning the title again.
Yeah. I think, obviously, as of right now, I don't think Arsenal is anywhere near that. Same with Manchester United, although they have been getting better. I could see Tottenham improving under Mourinho in the next season or two.
Once they find their players, the right fit.
I think Chelsea definitely is going to improve over the next 2 seasons.
You have to.
Yeah.
But, if you're looking at like what team would get in, are we saying what team would get in that wouldn't get in?
Yeah. So
so
top four.
So the team
minus one, who would be, yeah.
So whoever would be in fifth or something. If let's say Manchester City's in the top four, which they will be, obviously, whoever's in fifth will get it. And are we just talking England, or are we talking? Yeah, we're talking England.
Yeah,
right?
just England. Yeah.
So I think that for next year, or is it going to be whoever's the highest this year? That's going to be.
I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I think it's just what I assume is it's just who's the highest, because that seems the most fair,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see Leicester get in. I'd like to see them get in. I think that they are, a very good team, a very sound team. They have a good defense. Obviously, losing Harry Maguire is pretty big, but they do have some talent. And I really do like James Maddison. Great midfielder. He's linked to a bunch of other teams in the transfer window over the summer, but I think if they could keep him, and of course you have your mainstays like Vardy, I wouldn't be surprised to see them do pretty well, at least maybe get into the round of 16 if they have a favorable group. So my pick is probably Leicester City.
All right, our next question here, it's not so much a question as it is a controversial opinion, and our friend Inkaid, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, he says Paulo Dybala is better than Hazard, Salah, and Mane. Well, I would say at the moment, I would have to disagree. On current form, I could see definitely better than Hazard, but then again, Hazard's injured. He's also adjusting to
Real Madrid.
Adjusting to Real Madrid. Salah, and Mane, I don't know. They're just having great seasons. Dybala, to his credit, is also having a great season.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that he has the potential
to be
better than all of them.
I don't think he's there yet.
But I don't think he's there yet.
Who do you think is better than him out of those?
Last season, all three of them were better than Dybala. Hazard had a great season with Chelsea.
Definitely.
Salah, obviously, great season. Although not as great as the 2017-18 season, but still, Champions League winner. Yeah. Mane, again, also Champions League winner, did great. But I don't know. I think, like I said, I think Dybala is, people talk about him being the next Messi. Obviously, he's not at that moment, not at that height yet. I don't think he'll be ever to reach that height. But
most
still,
people ever to play soccer won't reach
you see the talent he has. He'll have games where he'll just pull a magic trick out of a hat, like against Barcelona in the 2017 Champions League. He was just unplayable,
invisible.
But then and then other games will just be absolutely invisible.
Ghost.
You know, like Real Madrid against Real Madrid both times in the Champions League for the last couple seasons. So I don't know. I think he has the potential. I'm not sure if it's an attitude problem or maybe it's just positioning, because last season he had a very bad season, but it was also Ronaldo's first season there. He's adjusting. So
when you're underneath, like when you're like, of course Ronaldo's going to be the guy up top, and he's going to be the one who's be finishing the chances. And if Dybala could be like the Robin to Ronaldo's Batman, I think, like similar to how Neymar was with Messi, I think that would be ideal. And like he could play underneath Ronaldo until eventually Ronaldo's gone, and he'll pass the torch to Dybala, which is what I'm sure most people in Turin would like to see happen. And I think he has the potential to do that, but I don't know. I need to see more of him. I'd probably put him right now, definitely not above Salah. I really do like Hazard, even though he's not playing well and he's injured. But I think I did used to say that Hazard was the best player outside of Spain. And that was before Ronaldo went to Italy. And although I don't still think that, like I don't think he's like, because back then I was saying he was like the fourth best player in the world because of Neymar, Ronaldo, Messi. I don't think he's fourth or fifth. I'd probably put him at like 10 or 11, but I still think he's above Dybala. And I think Mane is probably the closest one to Dybala, just because I attribute Liverpool's success more so with Salah than Mane. Not to knock Mane or anything, but I still put him above Dybala by a little bit. But I think they're very similar, and I'd have them ranked probably like around 13 or 14 in the world, like still like elite. But there's definitely some room for Dybala to improve and be like fourth or fifth best player in the world.
I think, and this might be a little controversial, I think he has the most raw technical talent out of them. You know, just look at his free kick techniques or some of the passes he's able to do, or the dribbles he does.
With all the other guys, so, like you've seen them now at their peak. You haven't seen Dybala at his peak yet.
Yeah. Oh, like, hopefully.
I hope so. Yeah. I hope his peak isn't like him being at 25 or something.
Yeah.
Because you always want to, like, you want your peak to be around 28, 29.
Yeah.
You know, you're still like peak athletic ability, but your mental game is also there when you're older.
Yeah.
Like when you're younger, like Dybala is like the maturity, the discipline, like it's not all there yet. He has to develop a little more up that, and mentally, even though he has the ability, it's just a question of being able to put it together on a consistent basis. And that's something we haven't seen him been able to do his career, because he was kind of heralded as like the next, like, you know, like more like the Italian, like the Argentinian type of like Neymar or somebody like that, like a Messi, because he has to play with Messi. This poor kid has to go from playing with Messi and like being compared to Messi to going over and playing with Ronaldo.
Yeah,
he's bouncing between like the two greatest players of the generation. He's constantly. I don't think it's unfair, because that could be why he's struggling at times, because he's being compared to the two best players of the past like 30 years, and it's ridiculous. And I mean, he's a great player, and I just think it's unfortunate that it's fortunate for him because he gets to play with amazing players, but there's also a downside to that, which is you're compared to these amazing players. And I think that eventually, he'll get out of the shadow of these guys once they get out of the way, and I think we'll see Dybala at his potential. I think he could easily be the best guy on that list in like 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, I hope so for him. He's a player I love to watch, and not only that, in the Champions League as well as the Copa America last season, he had some good performances, but it always felt like he just didn't get the playing time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, for his sake, I hope so. I hope he gets up there. Our next question here is from Camilo, and he asks, who do you think will win the Euro this year? Because I'm seeing French defenders being weak this season. And I agree. I think that France, we talked about this the last episode a lot, while they are the reigning world champions, they weren't dominant champions. And because of that, I don't think that they will defend their title as the world champion in the Euros. In my opinion, I think it's going to be between Portugal England, and the Netherlands.
Those are all good picks.
Those are, in my opinion, the top three strongest options. Obviously, Germany, even though they're coming off a terrible World Cup, they're still Germany. They have immense great talent. Spain still have a star-studded squad.
Yeah.
And then, Belgium as well. They have a star-studded squad along with Spain. And there's a few other teams that could be dark horses. But I think it's going to be between Portugal, England, and Netherlands just by Portugal. You mentioned Ronaldo. Obviously he's getting old, but
he finally has a cast around.
He finally has. You had João Felix up top, and then Bernardo Silva. And then you have other Nelson Semedo. Pepe's still there. Rui Patricio still a reliable goalkeeper. The team is just a good team. Andre Silva as well. He's a decent player. And then Ronaldo, even as old he is, he's still such a deadly finisher. And in tournaments like these, this is where he thrives in. So I think that Portugal are probably the number one contenders. And they're a team I like to watch too. So I for personal reasons, I hope they do well.
Back-to-back Euro winners.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool to see. Netherlands, on the other hand, they might be a slight underdog. I think the one thing they are missing is outright number 9. But beyond that, the team is just star squad. The team is just loaded, like you mentioned. I still can't pronounce his name, but the guy that just got signed by Tottenham, I believe he's Dutch.
Bergwijn?
And then Depay, hopefully he comes back for injury. Wijnaldum, De Jong, Van de Beek in midfield. And then, of course, in defense, this is where it's insane. You have De Ligt, Van Dijk, and De Vrij. Three of the best center backs. And then in goal, you have Jasper Cillessen, who's a very reliable goalkeeper. I think the difference is if Memphis Depay comes back from injury in time. If he misses the Euros, I think they won't be as serious contenders. But if he's there, I think that they're definitely up there. The third one I mentioned was England. We talked about England a little bit in our last episode. We talked about how they kind of got lucky with a favorable draw to the semifinals of the World Cup.
Yeah.
But this time, I think their team is better now than it was at the World Cup. You look at a guy like Raheem Sterling.
Oh, yeah, he's playing best of his life.
Best of his life. And then hopefully Harry Kane comes back from injury. But even if he doesn't, you can even call up Jamie Vardy, you can call up Tammy Abraham, Marcus Rashford. They have an abundance of talent.
Jordan Sancho.
That's
him too. He wasn't there, didn't even in the World Cup.
Yeah, and then Harry Maguire in defense.
He's playing amazingly for Manchester United. They have the second in clean sheets in the Premier League, I think.
Yeah, and then in midfield, Jordan Henderson. He's a very underrated player, but he is, as he's shown for Liverpool, has been very good. So, in my opinion, those are the top three. Who would you say is your...
For me, I'm going back and forth between the Netherlands, and then, I don't want to just throw away Germany and Spain because they have such quality teams, but I don't know. I just don't think it's gonna be a Germany or Spain this year again, and I do think Germany's gonna bounce back and beat at least in the semifinals this year, from that disastrous World Cup they're gonna need to, and I do think that they have a good team. But I would probably put my favorites as Netherlands, you just talked about. You pretty much summed it up. And I do also, this is going to be the last major tournament that I'm going to put them as one of the favorites because they haven't won anything. It's Belgium. And I think that, if they can't win it now, then they're never going to win. Because, this is the peak of their golden generation. These guys are now finally at the age where this is the best they're going to be ever. De Bruyne has a case to be the third best player in the league, in the world. I keep saying league, world. I think he's a brilliant player, and I think that they have talent around him. Lukaku's a great target man up there. And I think, Vertonghen still, and Alderweireld, the Tottenham duo, they're still very good. And I think that they have enough with Hazard, of course, and his brother Hazard. Both of them are really good players. Witsel down the middle. I think that they have the pieces just I just want to see him put it together. I don't know if Roberto Martinez is the right manager, but I mean, I just need to see, like, this is the last tournament we're going to put them as the favorites or top two, just because they just have the talent, and it's just, if they can't win now, then they're never going to win. So even though, like, Netherlands seems to have like the complete team, the team that's well disciplined, well coached, they don't really have a weakness except for like the target number 9. But I mean, when you have enough players outside of that, like, that's enough to hold your own against anybody. And I think it's really important to have a good core, like central midfielders, central backs, and that's something Netherlands has. And I think that's something that Belgium sort of has too. And I think they just have the most gifted passer, and I really do value passing, and I value controlling the flow of the game. I'd like to see them take more initiative this year. I completely forgot. I just glanced over Dries Mertens. Dries Mertens is still, he's playing amazing football for Napoli, and I think that he's someone who could be one of the impact players of the tournament. And the last team that I do think has a legitimate chance to win, that I would say is one of my favorites, is I do think that we could see something special out of Italy this year, because they have a lot of young players, and I think that they are sort of revamping their team because of the generation before them that are finally starting to retire. They're starting to lose their form, and I think that they will show us how upset they are for not making the World Cup last time. And I think that we'll see something along the lines of how last time we saw them in the Euros, where people kind of looked at the team, and I think this is a much better team, but people looked at that Italian team and they kind of thought, like, what is this team? Like, really, this is your brain of the Euros? And they made a great run, and they were one of the best teams in the tournament. And I think that we could see something similar out of this team. And I think Verratti would probably be the player I would be the key to their victory, just because if you can control the middle of the park and be like the gateway from the defense to the offense, I think that he's going to be the cog that powers Italy if they want to win. And I mean, we have to talk about France just because they won the World Cup. And of course, I wouldn't be surprised to see them win the Euros, but I don't know if they're my favorites because they didn't play that well, as you said, to win the World Cup. They played fine, but they didn't have like that, Germany or Spain type play. And again, nobody really did, as we talked about in the last episode. But to me, I'd need to see some development, like mentally, out of the French team, where they become more cohesive as a unit, rather than just a bunch of really good players playing together, which I think is what they essentially were in the World Cup. It was just a bunch of individuals who were just so good that they were able to outskill any team. Like, we see Pogba at his peak, we see Mbappe at his peak, we see Dembele at his peak, and Griezmann. These guys are amazing. But then you stick them all on France, and it feels weird saying this because they won the World Cup. But like, you stick them all together on one team, and like, you just don't see like what you'd think you see. Like, something's not adding up. Because this is a team that looks like they should be scoring like 5 goals a game, and like, they have an amazing defense, they have amazing midfielders. It's just, I wouldn't be surprised to see them win, but they're not my favorites. But if they can start playing more together, if they can start having more of a defined style, which I think could be led by like a Pogba, I think their strength is aside from skill, I think that they're really good at very attack-minded possessions. I think they need to have their foot on the gas. I think that they need to play hard-pressing defense, get the ball up, because they have they have fast outside backs. I mean, the Mendy's, of course. They have guys that can just bring the ball up the wing, and then they can either cross it into the target guys in the middle, or they could kick it back out to the Pogbas, and like, they can pass their way into pretty much the net. They can pass their way into victory, and I think that's what they're gonna have to do. I don't want to see just Mbappe trying to challenge 3 guys at once, trying to dribble his way through, because that's not gonna work. I think you need to work together as a team more. I think like Dembele, I need to see a bit more out of him, because he's another one of those players where he has so much talent, and of course, injury riddled, and he's kind of always gonna be like that. But I'd like to see France use this Euro as a kind of just like a, hey, like we're not like a fluke. Like we are like the best. This is like the generational team right here. Like we're not just some average winner. Like we're gonna show you that we deserve that World Cup win and we deserve this Euro win. So I think like you have so many European teams this year that have just so much talent. And I think this is like the first time in a while where, at least in my opinion, aside from Brazil, I think that all the top 8 teams are European. So I'd probably have like Brazil in there. But I think at least like the top 4 teams are all European. There's just so much talent. There's just because I mean you look at the teams that are the best in the world right now are Liverpool and Manchester City, and most of their players are European. So of course most of the players on European countries are the best in the world. But again, my favorites are Netherlands and Belgium. I think that one of them will win. At least I hope so.
So you mentioned some South American countries there. You mentioned Brazil. Going off of this question, obviously at the same time as the Euros this summer, the Copa America will take place in both. It's being co-hosted in Argentina and Colombia. So who do you think is gonna win the Copa America in your opinion?
I'd say Brazil. I think that we will see some good play out of them. The big question I have for them is not so much Neymar related. And I do think they have a very good defense, which is something they haven't had the past couple of years. They have had, but they've been so reliant on like Thiago Silva. But I mean, now that he's older, but you're seeing younger guys stepping up, and you're seeing a more complete team around him on defense. I think that the biggest question is actually shoring up the center of the park in midfield, because they've kind of bounced between like your Paulinhos and you have different guys sitting in the middle like back. They had Oscars back when he was. They never really had like a very like gifted midfielder in the center. They've had amazing guys on the outside, and I think like Casemiro, he's a very good defensive midfielder, but he's showing some pretty poor form in Real Madrid this year, and I do think he's just getting overworked. I feel like because he's having to make up for the lack of pace around him, like the age around him, and Cruz and Modric, and I think that's going to carry on to Brazil. And of course, like Fernandinho's getting older. Like they don't have like that. Like they don't have somebody like Francis Conte, and like Spain has like Coques and Saúls.
Well,
like,
they do have Artur Melo, although he is young, but I think he's a very creative midfielder. It's I think it's kind of strange for a country like Brazil that's so talented with football players that usually you don't see a talented midfielder like a Xavi-like midfielder from Brazil. Mm-hmm. Usually you see like these creative wingers and strikers. But Artur is the unique one in that he is a Xavi-like player, and I think he's so I saw in the Copa America he was amazing at least in the latter stages, especially in the final.
I think that probably like if he plays well, then I think that the rest of the team is good enough. Where if we can see a really strong midfield led by him, and this is kind of like if he can show us this go around that he's legitimate. Like that's 2 tournaments in a row. He's playing well for Barcelona, and like I feel like he'll be one of those guys who'll be talked about a ton. Like there's always like those stars of the tournament, where I feel like if Brazil has a good tournament, a lot of it will be on the back of him, and I feel like he'll be getting a lot of media coverage, and he'll be like it's hard because lots of times people just associate the type of player with goals, and sometimes it's more than just scoring goals. And I think that of course Neymar is going to be the one. If he's probably going to be the one bagging the goals, him and Firmino. And of course we didn't even talk about Coutinho. Like they have such a gifted front area, and they have great back. They have an amazing goalkeeper in Alisson. It's just if I can see a strong center of the park in midfield, then they are probably going to win, and they're probably going to have a very trademark Brazil type tournament, where I think like their biggest competition is like Argentina and Chile and Uruguay, and I think that just they're a much better team than those 3 teams. And I wouldn't be surprised to see like Uruguay make a good run, and Argentina led by Messi. Argentina is another one of those teams where I feel like they have of course they have Dybala. We were just talking about Dybala being possibly one of the best players in the world soon. It's just we haven't seen it with Argentina, and we did talk about this a lot in the World Cup episode. But I mean, they would probably be my second choice, but I do think Brazil is, at least in my opinion, the clear favorite to win.
Yeah, in my opinion, I'm going to go on a limb here and say Argentina is going to win. Now I know it might sound a little crazy considering how many problems they've had over the past, especially over the past year and a half or 2 years really. But this tournament is in Argentina, and yes, I know the last time they hosted the Copa America in 2011, they were very disappointing. But I don't know. I just think this is going to be one of the last. I mean, I don't think it will be Lionel Messi's last tournament, but it's kind of nearing the end on his career, internationally speaking, of course. But I also think Argentina finally found a system that works. Their manager, Lionel Scaloni, has been able to find pattern that's it's working, getting results. I mean, you saw the end of the Copa America, they were able to get third place. They did lose in the semifinals, but it was to Brazil, eventual champions and host nations. And in their recent friendly results, they've tied Germany, they've beaten Brazil, and they've had a few other good results. And while their squad isn't as star-studded as it has been in recent years, they still have, as you mentioned before, Dybala, and then they have Aguero up top as well. Di Maria, and then hopefully Banega gets called up.
Lautaro Martinez.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Lautaro Martinez, he was great in the Copa America, and he's great. He's been great for Inter. So I think that they'll really pull it together. I think Messi will have a great tournament, and I think they will eventually be champions. Although I do think I think Uruguay, as good as they have been and as solid and consistent of a team they've been for the past few years, I just think this year it might not work out because of just their star players are starting to get old. I mean, Suarez might not even be able to play in the tournament.
Suarez, Cavani, Godin, they're all...
Yeah, Cavani's getting old. Godin is getting very old.
I heard somewhere Cavani was thinking about going to the MLS soon, too.
Yeah, he might go to...
As soon as that happens, you kind of know, okay, he's over the hill.
Muslera is getting old. Other guys, Caceres, Coates...
So you get the sense that, their luck is finally kind of run out. Because, I mean, it's asking a lot of a nation of 4 million, of a country the size of Alabama or whatever, to be consistently putting out a top 8 finish in World Cups and Copa America runs. It's a lot. It's kind of similar to teams like Croatia or Belgium in Europe, where they have such tiny populations, and it's weird how good that they're a generation they've had. But it's then you also realize, okay, well, there's not gonna be a generation like this for a while in this country. Yeah. We kind of just got lucky to see it now.
Although I will say Uruguay's midfield is looking pretty strong. I mean, Torreira is very good, and also Fede Valverde for Real Madrid, and then Bentancur and Juventus as well. I think that I'm not writing them off. I don't think they'll win, but I think if they were going to win, 2019 was their chance to win the Copa America. Mm-hmm. Going on from there, Chile, I don't think Chile is going to do good. I was surprised that they made it as far as the semifinals last time. Their team is getting old. Their best players from the past years, like Sanchez, I mean, granted, he's been okay at Inter, but still, it's not the old Sanchez we know. Vidal is still very good, but still, he's also getting old. Edu Vargas as well. I mean, how many tournaments can he play at the top level? Yeah. Bravo's getting very old. Medel's getting very old. And then the problem is you don't really see replacements for these guys popping up. I mean, I will admit Eric Pulgar has been very good. He's he's the center midfield. I think he's currently playing for Fiorentina. He's very, very good. He's young, but other than him, I don't really see many young Chilean talent coming out comparable to that
I also do think,
Sanchez, Medel, Vargas, Vidal.
It doesn't always happen, but lots of times when you have a country that's kind of in turmoil, it's hard to focus on sports and soccer, and Chile right now protests and things that really, like, speaking aside from football, there's a lot of just chaos going on, and it's hard to really find like the time to rally around your team when there's just so much going on. Just the focus isn't on soccer right now in that country, and it's asking a lot. A lot of those guys play like it's a small country, so a lot of their guys are domestic players, where like they are out there like in the country like while all this crazy stuff is going on, and like it's just hard to focus on the game, like having your practices and maintaining the team, having like making the decisions. It's just there's a lot going on. You're distracted. It's a distraction, and it's an important distraction because it's like your country and how it's being run. It's just unfortunate that it's happening right before like a tournament. I think that'll be like enough to kind of throw them off, and like maybe they will make it like into like the quarterfinals. But I don't really see them being that much of a threat to win.
Yeah, I will say I agree with that point. I think one nation I forgot to mention. I think Colombia can do a serious run. I mean, I was surprised that they exited the Copa America in the way they did last time. They were very good. I mean, arguably the best team of the tournament up until the quarterfinals, where they just kind of just didn't show up. But if James gets playing good again, I think they could definitely make a strong run. Maybe even win, given that they're co-hosts. But to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if Brazil just wipes the floor with everyone. Just judging by player quality, I mean, you mentioned it already. They're easily the best team in South America. You can even make an argument that they're the best team in the world. I wouldn't be surprised if they just wiped the floor with everyone. I just don't think that it's sometimes it's hard to defend a title like that. And it's an international tournament. Sometimes things don't go your way. I don't think they will, but I will not be surprised at all if they just have a dominant performance and just steamroll everyone. So going off from there, we are running out of time a little bit, so we're going to answer a few more questions, kind of little rapid fire questions if you want to pull it up. Hold on.
So rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
We have one from Andres Castillo. He says, he asked if Bernardo Silva and De Bruyne are going to escape City if the UEFA ban goes through. You think they're going to leave?
Wait, what's the question? So if the
UEFA ban goes through, are they going to leave City?
I don't think so. I think they have Pep said that he's not leaving. I think they have a good relationship with Pep, and even if they're not in the Champions League, they're still serious contenders for major silverware in the Premier League and FA Cup, things like that. So no, I don't think they're going to leave. You want to? All right, so so this is kind of a. Nick says, do you think that Arsenal should liquidate the club and start over because they are not in the best of form right now?
I mean, they're a joke. And I seriously think that what I would do if I was in charge of, like, Arsenal and I was playing FIFA with this team, because that's, like, the only way I could think of this is, like, because I've never managed a team as, like, a FIFA manager. If, like, your team is just, it's just such a dysfunctional team. You just top to bottom just wipe everybody. Like, you don't sell a team as big as Arsenal and like they're a cash cow. But like there's obviously problems if you have this much income, like you're making this much money around the world, you're a big name like Arsenal, and like you're not going anywhere, and your big money players like Aubameyang and Lacazette, like while they're playing good, like it's not enough. And like the guy you brought in, how long has he been here? Oh, so like 7-8 years. Where like he came in, he was amazing in Real Madrid. And he hasn't gone like more than like 10%, 20% of a season playing like how he did play for Real Madrid. It's just ridiculous. And part of that's on the management, part of that's on the players. But I mean, they were probably the most disappointing team of the decade, I'd say, of the 2010s, Arsenal, because like the amount of talent they've had and like the income, and they can't do anything with that. I think they need to they need to sell everybody and just restart. Like, if that means like in the relegation battle, then whatever, so be it. But you just you have to completely wipe the shit. And you have some young players to build off of. They have like Joe Willock and Guendouzi, They have a lot of young like midfielders. They have the talent. I mean, even Bellerin you could keep him, but there are a lot of guys that you could sell for a ton of money, and I'm sure you'd be fine. Maybe you'd have 1 or 2 years like Chelsea right now, where like they're kind of, Yeah. But I mean, if they did that, I feel like in 3 years they could be, as long as they found the right manager.
Yeah.
But they could be fine. But yeah, right now, just get rid of most of the guys and most of the coaching staff and most of the ownership. It's just everybody needs to go.
All right. From there, we have our next question. If you want to read that one.
Which?
Yeah.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. The Bosman ruling killed.
Oh wait. No, not that one. Yeah, here we
go. Okay. Your thoughts on Barca's signing of Martin Braithwaite and how it'll affect Leganés?
All right, so that question's from Robert.
From Robert Hurtado.
As a Barcelona fan, I have mixed feelings about this one because when I first heard that, Braithwaite's being signed, I was like, well, why him? I to be honest, I didn't even know who he was. And then, doing a little research, I found out that he actually was very good for Leganés. He wasn't there for that long, but
goal scorer.
Yeah, he's a solid player. But
kept them afloat.
From a Leganés point of view, I'm pretty sure they're 19th in the league table right now in the Liga. And losing a player like that, I think that's it's terrible.
He scored
for them.
all but 3 of their goals, I think.
Yeah, and then Leganés was not able to sign a replacement because obviously this transfer was done outside of the transfer window, and because of that, Braithwaite can't play in the Champions League until next season if he's still there. And to be fair, Braithwaite only played 1 game. He came on as a sub on Barcelona's last game in La Liga, and in that little time he played, he got essentially 2 assists. He played very good. So part of me is happy that he's here because he's obviously a good player, but then part of me is also kind of I feel bad for Leganés. And then furthermore, I think that the situation that we needed to sign him was created out of the Barcelona board's own incompetence. Because they obviously no one could have seen this injury crisis coming with Suarez. Suarez, is out for the season. Dembele, while he does get injured, they weren't expecting him to be injured for essentially the rest of the season.
That's why you have to sign backups in the
but
transfer window.
Yeah, on top of that, they sold they loaned out Carlos Perez, who, in my opinion, I think he's a great player. He's very young, but I think he's a great player. I don't know why they loaned him out. And then they also sold Abel Ruiz, who, he hasn't really proved himself at Barcelona, but still, he's an attacking forward, and Barcelona at the moment,
they're already thin on that.
Other than Braithwaite, they only have 3 attacking players: Messi, Griezmann, and Ansu Fati. Who you can't really rely on Ansu Fati because
17.
As talented as he is, he's a 17-year-old. So I think that this situation was created by Barcelona themselves, and furthermore, I don't know why they went out of their way to sign Braithwaite when, in reality, Barcelona has this great youth program with La Masia. Why didn't they just promote a youth striker? That would have been, in my opinion, much more cost effective because you didn't have to pay millions for Braithwaite. Not that they paid a lot for him, but still, it would have been a lot less and a lot easier. You just promote a guy from the youth team. So
screwed over a little team completely. And they're kind of getting away. Because they're probably going to be in the relegation. Probably going to get relegated now, almost definitely. And I feel like it shouldn't be allowed because Barcelona kind of got rewarded for their own incompetence right there because they could have signed a replacement. They didn't.
So on that note, I think we're going to end it right there. I think that was a good episode, a good Champions League wrap up, and a good Q&A.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening. This has been the Football Block with Brandon and Joey. Have a good night.
Have a good night.